Bienvenido, bienvenue. Today we'll be talking about tips for learning a foreign language. And so, one of the most important things you can do when working on developing an ear for a foreign language is expose yourself to as much as of the language as you possibly can. And in today's day and age, with all the platforms we have access to, it really has never been easier. And so, even if, let's say, you choose to watch Netflix, a lot of times you can change the language to Spanish or you can put subtitles on. So either way, whether you're listening to it in English and reading it in Spanish or you're listening to it in French and reading the English subtitles, both are insanely beneficial to you. But what I would suggest, whether it be movies, television series, it's really easy to Google what the top 10 French television shows are, the top Spanish television shows are, and you can find them. And on top of just listening to it, you're learning culture, you're learning different ways of life. And so this is so useful when learning a foreign language. So remember, most people will tell me the easiest part about a foreign language is that they can speak it. They have no problem forming their sentences, but when it comes to listening, they really struggle. And there's so many reasons for this. Everybody speaks differently. People have different dialects. And then on top of it, these are syllables that your ear is not trained to hear. And so the more you expose yourself to these syllables, eventually your ear will pick up on it. So that's something just to keep in mind. And with that being said, there's nothing that isn't to, I expose myself to all different stuff, whether it's silly or not, because there's so much culture within it. And I learned so many different words. And there's things on HBO, Diarios de Motocicleta, Emily in Paris, so much French culture that you can discuss in those episodes. And so it's really something that you can take advantage of to improve. If you really want to learn a language, you need to start surrounding yourself and immerse yourself in it as much as possible. So those are just some of my recommendations. And when you are on learning modules, you guys are going to see in tips for learning a foreign language, there's another folder in there. And I put as much stuff as I can remember. I'm still building it. If you think of something you want to send me to add to my list of just recommendations that I know offhand that I've enjoyed or I've read that are really good for you guys to explore on your own. So make sure you check those out. Another really great part about developing an ear for your foreign language is that this includes music. And with that being said, how awesome to be exposed to so many more new artists and different ways that music can be presented. And so this is something I also highly recommend because it's an easy way to immerse yourself. Again, if you hear something over and over and over again, eventually you're going to pick up on it. I have 2 young children and I'm teaching them English and Spanish, and I can tell it's just by repetition, right? They hear it over and over and they become parrots. And so the more you can expose yourself and the more you can immerse your ear in these languages, you'll have much more success. And it's actually super enjoyable as well. And you'll know in most of my lessons that I do, I try to recommend artists for you to check out as well. So with that being said, this is not to even include, I haven't talked about podcasts. I love Coffee Break Spanish and I love Coffee Break French. These are anywhere from 5 to 10 minute podcasts on review lessons from anywhere to how to say hello, what is the weather. And so they're great reviews that you could be listening to in your car or on the bus. So easy ways for you to access different languages. Duolingo is a really popular application that people like to use. And that's the thing. If you can add consistency to your practice, that's when you're going to really be able to understand the language, but you need to be immersing yourself in it. And these are all different ways that you can do that. So I have a couple more recommendations, and this one's really important too. It's really important that you make mistakes. And if you are too worried about speaking perfectly, it'll be much harder for you to master the language. You are going to make mistakes, and that is totally fine. This is why I love teaching this language. This is why I love learning it, is because making mistakes is part of the process, and it really helps you learn. And most people, if you're speaking to a native, they will just politely correct you and nod you in the right direction. And so it is okay. I do not expect you to be perfect. You are being introduced to a foreign language. And if you can even think, watching now that it's taken 3 years for my son to put full sentences together, how much time that it takes to absorb that. And so you must be patient with yourself, and be open and use that growth mindset that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. So I know this is really old school and this is how I learned Spanish, and you guys have a lot of more platforms, but I love flashcards because not only writing it helps me learn, but then constantly seeing it over and over again. This is how I built up my vocabulary, and that's something that I recommend you can do. And then you have flashcards on all different sorts of platforms now too, so they can be electronic as well, and just be consistent. Even if it's once a day for 5 minutes, or if it's just listening to music on your ride to work. And if you get an opportunity to speak with a native speaker, I highly suggest that you take every chance you can get. Remember to have that growth mindset and just put yourself out there. Most people are so delighted that you have taken time to learn their language that they will embrace the fact that you are trying to communicate with them in their native language. And so, as though it can be daunting, it is the best way to learn any language. So these are my recommendations for you. One of the most important ones that I'm going to end with is just that growth mindset. A lot of people come in having this idea that you have to speak perfectly. Everything has to be just so. This is one of the reasons, too, that I allow 3 attempts on your quizzes, because it's a growth process, right? You're not going to get everything right the first time. And so failure is an opportunity to grow. You can learn anything that you want to. So even if you don't do well the first time, it doesn't mean you're not going to get it in the end. It's taken me years to master French and Spanish. And I still am. It's a nonstop process. These challenges help you grow. They help you problem solve. The effort and attitude determine your abilities. So having that positive outlook that eventually you'll figure it out really helps in the learning process. And just be inspired by the success of others. And keep in mind to open things. So I hope this helps settle your fears. It's an amazing process learning a language, but obviously it comes with its challenges. And so that's something to be mindful of. But if you have the right mindset, you can do anything. So I look forward to learning foreign languages with you. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. Ciao.